In these times of uncertainty, it's all the more important that we keep collaborating, informing, and inspiring each other, so that we can be smarter and better tomorrow. Welcome to the Pakhuis de Zwijger livecast.
Hi everyone, and thank you for tuning in to this podcast of Pakhuis de Zwijger, or I meant to say a livecast. Tonight is the second night of 2 nights dedicated to the upcoming American election. My name is Alle Kempe, I'm a researcher, writer, and I will be your host this evening. As this important election is coming up fast, tonight we will delve into the hearts and minds of the people behind this election. Tonight we will see the American people talk for themselves. To do this, we will watch the documentary, America, How Are You? By the end of the night, we will have seen a side of America that's not seen very often. We will be one step closer to understanding this complex and diverse country. Rather than experts and journalists, tonight we will see the American people talk themselves. So to do this, we will watch this documentary, but before this, the makers of the documentary are here with me in the studio. Jonathan and Merijn Super. Thank you for being here tonight. So you guys will introduce the film, but after watching the film, we will also have a discussion with a few people joining us over Zoom from the States. Those people are in the documentary themselves, right? And also we have with us here Laila Frank. Laila, welcome.
Thank you.
Laila Frank is a journalist, America expert. She writes for De Groene Amsterdammer and is a frequent guest at programs such as Bureau Buitenland, Op 1 and the Nieuwsbv. Laila, are you excited for the film?
Very much so. Yeah, I've been watching it. I mean, I've seen the development from the start. And I am curious because these guys are not bound by media logic or by budgets or by a director at a new show saying it's going to be 6 minutes and I want polarization. And I love the fact that they're driven by curiosity and made something with an open mind. And the beauty of America are the people, and it is the encounters that you have. So I'm just super excited. Yeah.
Amazing. So after your contribution and the contribution of people on Zoom, we will have a Q&A with a few people here in the audience, and we will reflect on the film all together. So without further ado, now all the technicalities are out of the way. Jonathan, Merijn, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So Merijn, how does this film come about?
Well, basically, about a year ago, we started a fellowship, me together with him, also with you actually. And I met this guy, I knew we would go to the States for this fellowship. And I immediately felt that I had a good connection with him. And I heard that he was a filmmaker, and I knew that we would go to the States for talks with politicians and journalists. And I was immediately like curious more about the Americans themselves. And I thought, why not make a movie? So I basically sent him a text message, shall we make a movie in the States? And my curiosity led to that message, and your response was, I want to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, and now we're here.
Now we're here. It was for him, it was especially because of curiosity, and for me because of worry. I'm always worried, and this time I was a worried European citizen. I have no clue what the fuck is going around in America. I'm a bit upset on how the media and politics are portraying this country. Portraying this country to be totally polarized and divided. And I have the feeling that if you speak to people and you have an open approach, there might be actually more behind this facade of hatred and polarization.
Okay.
So that's why I went to America and spoke to all these people. And that's about it. I want to show it to you.
Merijn, are you happy with the film?
I am very happy with the film. I think indeed that the worries that Jonathan has, he is indeed very worried. I'm also a bit worried, but not as worried as Jonathan. But I think that our worries about everyone hating each other there, that we really we succeeded in checking out if that is really the case. If really everyone hates each other, if you talk to them differently than what we see in American media.
Okay. So is there anything that our audience, the people at home, that they need to know before watching this film?
We didn't do this with any agenda,
okay.
Just because I love people.
Okay.
Let's keep it to that. We love people.
Okay, amazing.
It's a political slogan.
So without further ado, let's watch America, How Are You?
When your dancing days are over, better walk them worn-out shoes. You cannot talk your way out of the blues.
Thanks for joining me back here in the studio. It feels like I took a trip to the stage just now. I don't know how you guys feel. Right?
Yeah, it's a memory lane, sort of. Yeah, it feels like home watching this.
Yeah, one of the things I like most of going to the States, actually talking to all the people and like seeing this here, makes me feel warm. And lucky for me, we're joined here by two stars of the film. So we have here tonight with us Emmanuel. Emmanuel, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
So watching this film, how did it make you feel?
Watching this film made me feel a little goofy because I kind of look a little strange. I kind of sound a little nervous, but it was a really good film. It was very well put together. It was really interesting to see everybody around the country's perspective on what's going on. And given that the film was filmed around March, about 6 months ago, it's crazy to see how everything's like transformed since then. Like talking about the virus, saying it's just the China virus, to quarantine for 6 months, and some still are quarantined, can't even go outside the house without wearing a mask, or seeing how we're talking about a civil war about to arise, and then right then in the summer we had riots and kids my age younger getting arrested just for standing up for what we believe in. So it was a really interesting film. I liked it.
Yeah, so much has happened since filming this documentary. How is that for you to see how maybe unified people have standed earlier? Because it was filmed in March, I believe, right, guys?
February mostly.
Yeah, February. And now we're in November. How is that?
November to March. From March to November, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say it's gotten better, because it hasn't. It really has not gotten better. It's gotten more tolerable. It's gotten easier to put up with. The only difference is the media isn't focused on it anymore. There are still protests. There are still riots every now and again. Corona is still very prevalent and heavy in our society. We're still a divided nation, sadly, but it's just gotten easier to tolerate.
So how is it for you to watch this film that on many facets people seem to agree on things? Do you feel that that is a false portrayal, or do you also see still from your own experience that people really connect on a lot of issues and that it's just the media that's drawing people apart?
He's on mute.
Oh.
You're on mute.
My fault. It was very interesting to see a lot of people in the film were agreeing on so many things. Like it was a shock to me, watching it. I wasn't really expecting that type of response to the questions you were asking, but everybody seemed to be on the same page, and it's sad to see that not everybody in America could be like the people in this film. Not everybody in America could have that same open mindset, But it's good to see that select few, that handful. It gives me hope. We're not a complete loss. It's not over yet.
Okay. So joining us as well is Libby Segers from Georgia State University. How is it for you to see the film?
Well, first of all, the film is fantastic.
Thank you, Libby.
Watching the film, you're welcome. Watching the film was really cool because I was watching with my friend, and there were some times when our jaws were just on the floor. I did not expect to see so many conservatives calling the true Americans Native Americans. That was really interesting. And to really see how we agree on so many things, even more radical issues that I didn't expect. It was really, really, really powerful, especially like going into this election right now in 4 days. It was really interesting.
So do you feel like more people in the States should watch this?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Okay. So with the election coming up, how do you see this nation becoming more divided? Do you feel like, with your experience on the ground, it's polarizing people? And what do you think is the true force behind this?
Yeah. So I think since this documentary was filmed, I think that we have gotten vastly more polarized with the rising of the Black Lives Matter movement, because that has been politicized more. The coronavirus has been politicized more. We've had deaths of amazing leaders in our country who have died, like RBG, who's now been replaced in the Supreme Court with days to the election. And so I think we've become more polarized. And with Trump saying that he refuses to give up the seat peacefully if he loses, I think that come Tuesday, we're kind of in trouble either way. Because if Trump wins, I think that we're in trouble. And if Trump doesn't win and he refuses to step down from office, then that's unprecedented. And I have no idea how that's going to play out. I don't think anyone does.
Emmanuel, do you agree with that?
Wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly. I couldn't. She said it perfectly. There's not a better way to have said that.
So, Libby, in the film, you also mentioned the Supreme Court, and now that obviously has changed so much. How does it make you feel to see those words on screen?
I watched that, and I watched myself say what just happened, where Donald Trump has now have the majority of the Supreme Court as conservatives. And it was like a nightmare. I turned to my friend and I was like, oh my gosh, it happened. Like what I said in February happened. And so it's really scary. It's really, really scary because so many different minority groups' rights are at stake now in the Supreme Court and even this election. So it was like my worst nightmare come true.
Wow.
Can I both ask you a question? Because one of the things that you both say is there's a political system that's polarizing, there's a media system that's polarizing, and you also said that you both were surprised about a couple of things you saw. So that indicates a certain bias of your own. I guess my question is, what's the role of individual Americans and like you both in getting out of that divide?
Yeah, I think it's just, I think individual Americans have a responsibility of themselves to go and check sources, check multiple sources, make sure that you think you have the full story. But it's also very hard to have the full story in a country where our media is so bought out by corporations that they're not even reporting on stories or sides of stories that are in the public interest. And so it's like the media that we're looking for, the non-biased media, doesn't even exist, you know? And so I think we kind of have a unique issue in that.
Thanks.
Emmanuel, do you want to add to that?
Ben je nog optimistisch, Jonathan?
I agree. It's hard to, it's easy to be biased because it's very hard to trust the media. Growing up in school, grade school, you know, you believe that you have freedom of speech. Whatever you want, you can put out there. And if you have a platform, you can use it. You know, your voice will be heard, but our voices aren't being heard. We're speaking as puppets. You know, whatever we say can be misconstrued to whatever they want. You know, I keep hearing the phrase fake news. All news is fake, generally. Fox News, CBS, friggin', and then all of it's fake because it's all portrayed to one side. I've rarely read an article or watched a news segment where they double back and look at both sides. They rebuttal one argument. They always argue for one person. Of course, I'm not personally, I'm not for Trump. You know, I'm not all the way for Biden either. But you know, I've never seen a news segment where when they're hating on Trump, they hate on Biden too. Or when they're hating on Biden, they're hating on Trump too. They hate on one. They don't separate. They don't see the pros and cons of both. They see the cons of both and separate that. That's why we're polarized. We separate.
Okay.
And you hate Biden, but did you vote for him finally?
Yes.
Yeah. And was it difficult to get to vote in Atlanta?
Yes, trust me, it's very, very hard. Very hard, especially where I'm at.
Libby, did you also settle for Biden?
I did, but I want to make it very clear that I settled for Biden. I did not want it, but he's all we had, and so I did vote for Joe Biden.
Well, thank you for the both of you for being our eyes on the ground. Thank you so much for joining us here. Also here is Laila. So this documentary has been very critical of the media, and you're here to represent the media. So how does it make you feel to be on the bad side here? Or are you on the bad side?
That's for, I don't know, people who judge my work to say. I would say I'm not, and I guess that's the reason why you've invited me and not somebody else. But no, I recognize a lot of what Libby and Emmanuel say, because when I approach subjects or people I want to interview these days, it's always like, oh, really? So what outlet are you from? And I always say I am independent, which I am. I don't work for a big network or anything. And that usually helps my case. I actually interviewed Libby only because you guys introduced me, and that was like the safeguard. She's okay. So, yeah, it sort of makes me feel like I have to defend the media, but on the other hand, I really don't, because I don't feel I'm part of, I feel I'm pretty critical at the system of media, and the system being the clickbait system. And I am lucky that I don't have to be a part of that. So it's easy for me to trash talk the rest of the media system. And I'm just very happy that I am able to make a living out of being an independent journalist. And I recognize everything they say. And I'm very critical at, for example, I am a regular guest at talk show tables. And this, to me, is sometimes something that's really fun to do. But often I say no, or I have a discussion with my people of contact, because there is more of a clickbait energy in a talk show.
Trump's Twitter.
Yeah, then there is when I write an article for something else. So, yeah, it sort of makes me feel like I have to defend a system that I really don't want to defend. So, yeah, and I guess it's up to other people to judge my work. But
how big is the difference between the Dutch and the American media system, you think?
It's not as polarized as the American media system. I think a big problem in the media world is the money and the lack of it and the funding. So right now, I think journalism is one of the few branches of work that's actually thriving, because people are interested right now. And I think that's good news. And also, I mean, there's a lot of good journalism going on as well. Still, even the big media outlets and the big papers in the US, they sometimes have really, really good stories, and they put money into investigative journalism. So I also think it's too easy to just put that aside. Yeah, I'm not really sure if I'm answering your question here, but
sorry for putting you in the hot seat.
That's fine.
So we just saw this variety of voices, and you just returned from America yourself, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like the film is a fair portrayal of voice in America?
Oh, that's a hard question. I recognize a lot of things. And I think the thing that's underneath all of these stories that I recognize is a sense of discomfort with America for a lot of people. And that's a discomfort in both the political system, which doesn't represent every vote the same way. It's a discomfort with the economic position, where rich people have it so much better than poor people, and the disparity is growing. It's a discomfort with with the society and the systems that are in place there, the racial disparities, the identity disparities. So, and that's something that I sort of see throughout the whole movie, or at least that's my translation of what I just saw. And with all this discomfort, I do see something else, which is basically two opposing reactions. One is resistance in a very fierce way. It's resistance within the system, and it's resistance outside of the system. And we can talk a little bit about that, or I'll just leave it as this. And then there's apathy, which is another reaction that I see a lot that stems from the same part. And apathy can be, I don't vote anymore. This system doesn't work for me. I'm out. And I mean, 40% of Americans don't vote in a presidential election. And part of that is because people feel their vote doesn't matter. There is apathy saying, you know what, I'm not talking politics anymore. I'm just done. 4 years ago, we still talked about it, and now we just leave it at where it is. Fine, we'll just ignore it, which is the, well, I get it, but it's also some form of apathy, I would say. And then there's the one where you say, you know what, I vote every 4 years and then I just shut the rest of it out. Which, sure, it's like a cultural thing. You vote every 4 years, but you're a citizen every freaking day. And ignoring those other 3 years and 364 days, to me, is a form of apathy as well. So those are a lot of things I see, and also what I sort of see throughout the movie, if I try to look at it from a bigger point of view. I'm not sure if I did you right, but there you go.
No. So one of the great things of Americans that I always feel is that they're such natural storytellers. Do you feel in your work that you also encounter that?
Yeah, and I feel one of the reasons they're such storytellers is like, well, maybe Manuel and Libby can tell me about that, but when you're 4 years old, yeah, like you basically learn to tell a story, and it's a survival skill in America. You always have to sell something. You have to sell your story. You have to be able to bring it forward, which is fascinating to me as a survival skill in a democracy. But it's also like for makers and for storytellers, it's like playtime, because you just go sit at a bar, there's somebody right next to you and they'll tell you a novel-worthy version of their life, and sometimes it's true and sometimes it's not, but it's still a good story. So yeah, but you guys must have encountered that too.
Yeah, but I didn't look at it as if it was like people, I don't know, like as if they grew up telling stories. It felt more just like, I don't know, intimate in some way, not like someone selling me something. It felt, I didn't have the feeling they were like really selling me a story, but more like they were having intimate conversations. So this story, or like this thing you're saying now, it surprised me a bit.
Yeah, well, it's a quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I did feel that naturally Americans are almost every American that we approached was willing to talk to us. And then immediately started a whole story indeed, and sometimes people just spoke for 45 minutes suddenly, and they just couldn't stop talking. But it was still really interesting conversation. Like several times we had a good, I had an interview and Jonathan was filming, and I thought this is great. And then in the end he was like, yeah, this is way too long, just keeps on talking. But I do notice that the Americans, and that was a bit of a stereotype I had before, and it was confirmed that they can talk very well.
Okay.
And are willing to do so often.
Yeah. Maybe a question to you. Yeah. Are you more optimistic now? Or less worried? Or
less worried for sure, because I spoke to them and I saw hope in these people, but I'm still worried about the political system and about what's coming with Trump. And I don't know if Emmanuel spoke about this, or like maybe we can ask him, but he had some predictions on what would happen if Trump would get president, or what would happen if Biden would get president. Is it possible to get Emmanuel still, or?
I think it is.
Yeah, I remember that conversation. So my prediction is, if Trump is elected president, you know, we already had so many people who are pushing for him not to get elected. I got so many problems in America, just so we can have a voice, just so we can be heard. Do not put this man back in office. If you put him back in office, it proves that we haven't been heard. Martin Luther King said, writing is the language of the unheard. The writing will not stop. It'll only get worse. We'll keep fighting until we get what we want. If we don't get what we want, then the fight will never stop. Now with Biden, I predict, because Kamala Harris is such a strong individual and she has a lot of ideas that will, honestly, in my opinion, bring this country further. I think once he gets elected, he might step down in the next few months, just because he is like a little older, like 9,000 years old, and he's not all the way there. It might step down and give Kamala a chance to make some real reforms in this country.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Laila, you mentioned apathy, but what I also see more and more is actually this fire reigniting, that people really feel that this is a time to become active again.
Yes, that's the resistance part. And that's pretty strong too. And that's why I'm very interested to see how this is going to develop. And the resistance part is a lot of grassroots, which I think Libby can talk about, because that's her core. Well, she is one of those grassroots activists, but there's a lot of grassroots activism going on throughout the whole of the United States, engaging people, making them politically active. I mean, the Black Lives Matter movement is a grassroots movement in itself. And there's a whole new generation growing up with two crises in their backpacks, who really don't have a lot to lose and who really want to fight a system that was given to them. So that's the other side of the coin that I see a lot. But maybe Libby can...
But I have one question.
Sorry.
What I don't understand is why don't they vote on fucking, like, there's Kanye West on this ballot, there's like Greens on this ballot. Why does no one vote for them? Why are they not famous, or like, why is there no... Why is it just Biden? You say grassroots organizations, and then there's no one no one representing them in like the bigger picture.
Yeah, well, I can answer it, but I think maybe Libby and Emmanuel can do that too.
Libby?
Yeah, so so we do have like some third-party people who run and get on the ballots. Kanye West is on the ballot in a couple states, but the issue is that like fundamentally our country is a two-party system. Because we have an electoral college, and so it basically is like impossible for a third party to get enough votes in order to win, because they're not going to be as popular as the two parties who have been around for a longer amount of time. It would take 15% of the population of the voters to vote for that third party candidate for them to be able to be on the debate stage. And 15% of voters is such a vast amount of voters, especially considering that third party candidates don't get on the ballot in all states. And so they'd have to be write-in candidates, which creates another huge obstacle, and they're not given platforms by the media.
So Jonathan, is your question also why is there not a progressive on the ballot for the Democrats?
Some way, yeah.
Were you both voting Bernie in the primaries?
Yep.
What happened?
Bernie.
Yeah.
So what is it? There you go. So what is it about the Democratic Party that they don't get the drift of your generation? Like, why is Bernie not out there? I think that's your question, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Don't go shy on us now.
Yeah, no, I won't. I think that, well, first of all, the Democrats have cheated Bernie out of having the nomination twice. That's happened twice now. And I think it's because it's like more progressive than they're ready for. And because it won't make them more money. It's better for the people. If you're going to give the people what they really want, like one of the things on Bernie's campaign was Medicare for all, and the Democratic Party voted down Medicare for all as part of their platform. And I think that money talks as well. Like that was kind of a common theme in the film that people were talking about. Money controls our parties. And that's true because we have lobbyists that lobby our politicians. And yeah, so I think it's kind of hard when the parties dominate who picks the representatives and the people don't get to say who picks them. And also the order of when people do like the caucuses and stuff is all out of whack, because like the middle states usually do the caucuses first, which is like a projection for who's going to win. But those cities and states are no way representative of what all of America is. It needs to like all be done at the same time. For early voting and not staggered like it is right now. There's so many things that are wrong with our system that lead to this kind of polarization. It is like the whole system is whack.
Okay, so just a prediction, because of time, when will we have a progressive candidate on the ballot for president for the Democrats? Just give me a year.
How old will we? We're like 40, so 2000.
Hopefully 2024. That's what I want. That's what I'm hoping for.
AOC?
20,
Still too young.
Still too young? Yeah. What happened in this gap between Bernie and AOC?
I don't think Bernie's going to run again. I think he's too old. But AOC is just starting. So, I mean, I would love to see her run for president. She's a really powerful woman, and she takes really radical ideas and makes them accessible for a less radical society to eventually move us forward to progressive change. So I think she's really awesome and would make an incredible president.
So
but that's just my opinion.
I also want to keep some room for the audience here to ask some questions. Guys, if you have any and all questions, go up there to the microphone and take it away. Are there any here in the audience?
Don't be shy, no?
Be shy.
Yeah, please.
Hello. I wanted to congratulate you with the film and the editing and the music and the filming. I thought it was really great and well done. I do think, though, that the film says as much about you guys as it says about the American population. it feels like this is the kind of film that you can make any kind of film in the editing, in the end. You can make it look like you want it to look.
What do you mean with that?
Well, you have all these people that you talk to, and in the editing you can decide how you want to end the film, how you want the people to come out of this, you know. And the choice of people I thought was pretty, you chose me the pretty moderate people to come to the conclusion that you do come to, like you embrace them at the end, and you get this feeling of, okay, we can actually all get along.
So what's your question exactly?
I don't have a question. It's just something that came to mind when I saw the film.
Yeah, that in some ways it's true, but of course we curated. We curated all the answers. So we had 17 questions, and the answers given right now were the mostly given answers. So that's what we based this documentary on. So we didn't shape it into a story. Look how great America is. This is what the most given answers were, and we spoke to some extreme types, or not necessarily only moderate people, and even them, they were saying things that we didn't expect them to say. So in that sense, yes, you can make a film and just interview 100 people and cut out what you want to have in it. But this was also the majority of replies of people to our questions. So actually, this is our experience. This is what they've told us, and in that sense, yeah, you can make whatever out of it.
Yeah, but it's there. Okay, so before the actual filming, there is the moment where you decide who you're going to talk to and who not.
No.
No?
We wanted to speak to every American.
So my question then is, how did you pick the people that you actually...
You're in a camper and we stop and we go out and I ask to that person, can I talk to you? We're worried European citizens. We have no clue what the fuck is going around here. Like you saw in the introduction.
Yeah.
And then those people are like, yeah, okay, you can film me, fine. Of course, when we went to America, we had an idea. We want to talk to this group, to this group, to this group, to this group. We want to speak to as diverse possible audience. But we had no plan on how to approach these people. Just go in the car, see if there are people outside, and that's
so it was so it was a random and coincidental thing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, what about the people that support Trump and all the crazy stuff he says?
50% in the documentary is people that support Trump.
But you ask them, they say pretty, sort of okay, moderate kind of things. That there's nothing extreme. I mean, I don't expect you to pick the extreme answers, but I expect you to give some kind of realistic image of what's what people think and what they really think. That's maybe not so socially acceptable when there's some friendly guys from Holland. That's the part where I feel that. Like I said, it tells me more about you have some, like your message.
It's definitely, we have our image. We want to see a happy America, but this is also how we encounter them and how we have experienced it. So it's not chick berry, what do you call it? Cherry picking, sorry. And I'm not totally agreeing on that. Further on, I think we could ask the Americans in that sense if they have the feeling this is cherry picking and telling a story just based on how we want to tell it. Maybe Libya and Emmanuel can say something about it.
I'd like to quickly respond on the
he wants a real answer. A real answer on how America is, and America is broken. America is a battlefield, but you have to break something in order to build something great. The only place to go from rock bottom is up. That's the realest answer I can give you. No matter how low we might get, the only place to go is up. And it's people like me and Libby and everybody else in our generation who has a little bit of hope that we will get this orange man out of office and create some real change. That's the up.
Merijn?
Thank you for your compliments about the movie. And I very much agree with you that our message or our idea is present in this film, for sure. But I think that is what isn't like picking what you're showing, what every media or every maker does. Like I think we told a narrative about America that is not told so often, and that is possible to tell. And I won't tell to you like you can't find someone who speaks more extreme. Of course you can, but we really spoke to these people, and they said what they said, and they were indeed about half of them are voting for Trump, and exactly. Our surprise was also that we heard all these moderate things.
So I think we have time for one more short question. Is there anyone in the audience still there with a burning question for us? Amazing.
You said you said you're independently, but you have now 2 people responding who are voting not for Trump. Why is that?
Ja. Wil jij hem antwoorden?
Yeah, that's a good question. We discussed.
I approached 3 people that vote for Trump, and they didn't reply. Je ne sais pas why. Further on, we asked Christopher, the Christian priest in New York, and we asked Libby and Emmanuel, but we asked 3 Trump voters and they didn't reply to us. The 2 guys at the how do you call it, RV park? And
the trailer park.
Yeah, but no response.
Okay. Guys, I think we have almost run out of time. I'd like to thank the both of you for making this film.
Thank you,
Merijn, thanks. Laila, thank you so much for being here. And also Libby and Emmanuel, thank you so much for joining us virtually here. I would also like to thank the audience. I would like to thank everyone at home. If this leaves you wanting more, please go to the website of Pakhuis de Zwijger. Here you can see a variety of different programs. You can also see, coming up this weekend, I believe, the 3rd installment of this night on the election. You can rewatch this show. You can watch it on the website of Pakhuis de Zwijger. You can watch it on their YouTube channel. I think that was it. Thank you so much for joining us here.
You can see it on VPRO Tegenlicht also. It's until Wednesday. It's good to say maybe. It's 5 days online. Yeah. Okay. Here at Zwijger and at VPRO Tegenlicht.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Thanks again for joining us here. Everyone, have a good night.